diving into a topic that so many people shy away from. And as you see, it's a very important conversation about sexual conversation. Now, I did a live the other day, and I talked about the health and the reason for intimate conversation and why it matters to have sexual conversation within your relationship. Now, whether you're dating or in a committed relationship, you could be married, the way we talk about sex or avoid talking about sex can make or break a relationship. It could break the trust, it could break the intimacy, it could break that long-term satisfaction. Now, sexual conversations isn't just about what happened, okay? In the bedroom, it's about your safety, your honesty, your communication, your emotional connection, your understanding each other's needs and boundaries. So thank you for joining the Love Dr. Pamela Smith. This is going to be a great conversation. Thank you for following and liking and being a part. Continue to hit that notification bell. I love your comments and likes. And make sure you share and let people know that the Love Doctor goes live on some days, as well as, bringing you conversations every Sunday that we have throughout the week. Now, this particular talk is about sexual and love conversations and why it matters. And so this won't be so long, but it will get you to understand what happens when you don't do these type of conversations. Because so many of us have never been taught how to talk about sex. And whether you stay silent or about it and then fake your satisfaction, or just avoiding topics, the tough topics about your relationship or sexual relationship, that's silence, and it leads to misunderstanding, frustration, and even resentment within relationships. So tonight, we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you my top tips and powerful types of conversation that every couple should be having. And I'll give you a few questions about, what you really want to ask and how you respond. You got me? And if you've ever been afraid of talking about or bringing up something about your relationship or your desires, your intimacy, or any sexual conversation, is very important, because if you struggle with this, it will be a mismatched expectation, or you won't have a deeper connection with that mate. And if you have this conversation, you'll have greater intimacy and you'll have great trust in your relationship and you'll have a greater relationship. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about some of the things that you will miss when you don't talk about these type of conversations, because sometimes our sexual history matters. Most of the time it doesn't, because you as an individual should be taking care of any issues you may have had. But if you have underlying issues, you must talk about it and be transparent with that person that you truly love or care about, because it's all about safety. And so you have to have a conversation about if there's something wrong with me, or if I, have some form of STD, or, something happened within your test. You have to have a conversation about this. Some people don't have a conversation because of the fear of being judged and don't want to really share that history. And honestly, your history of possibly having transmitted diseases doesn't matter with your new partner. What matters is if it's a deadly disease that may cause harm, it matters. Now, within our relationships, when we're not married, you should be using male and female condoms, but you need to have that test. And if you watch me before, I talked about why you must ask your partner to test. This is why we're having this sexual conversation. You must ask a person to get a test, and let's be transparent about the test and make sure that we are clear of anything. Even though we're wearing, being safe, you still need to know that everything is good, okay? Because you don't have to share your past issues or if you've had anything, but you want to talk about, let's share what we're going to do going forward, and let's be safe, okay? So you want to build trust, and you want to ensure that both partners are informed about decisions about protection or boundaries. You know what I mean? The other thing about why you have to have this conversation, you got to have consent. And you have to have consent on a comfort level of conversation. You have to consent. That means your boundaries. You have to establish boundaries, because my past situation has nothing to do with what's going on now, right? It's just about mutual respect. And I talk about this all the time, and I talk about when you're a single individual. It's about mutual respect about your decision to be in relationships, but you're still a single individual. And because you're a single individual, you have to be comfortable enough to make yourself uncomfortable to have these conversations. And you want to do that by being comfortable enough to sit down with somebody that you hope to have a sincere relationship with, okay? And so you have to set that, because you're having both partners dealing with emotions, and then the emotions turn to physical emotions, right? So you want to be safe at all times, okay? So it's important to have that conversation. Other things, you need to talk about your turn-ons, your desires. What are your turn-ons that you like and don't like? You've got to have that conversation. What turns you on, so that I can increase your pleasure, so you can pleasure me, so we can have great intimacy through our shared desires, right? And our turn-ons help us get us in the mood and help us to be excited. So it's very important to talk about the desires that you have for someone, and what it is that you like. Because you're trying to be safe enough to share your desires. And you shouldn't be judged, of course. I'll talk about that in a minute. But you want to share your desires. Just create a space to be honest. Just create a space to be honest, and without feeling shameful or feeling embarrassed, okay? The other thing, sexual expectations is a problem. And this is why we have to have conversations. Sometimes people have sexual expectations about what they want from you. Sometimes your style or the way you like to have an intimate relationship, or the frequency, can cross lines, right? And so you have to have a conversation about how often do you think we should come together, how much sex we should have within our relationship. And that has a lot to do with your being married. Because as we're married, sometimes you get to the point where you don't do it enough. You just do a bit to just satisfy that moment of sexual desires. But you got to keep having that emotional connection. You got to keep having emotional connection. And so it's so important that you talk about your expectations of each other within the relationship. How often does matter, because you don't want to mismatch your expectation and have tension within it later. So talk about it. Because see, I'm saying this because some people, with even in the beginning relationship or just period, may say, "Hey, I may not want to do anything, but once a month." And you might be a person like, I'm gonna need this once a week. You see what I'm saying? We gotta talk. I don't know how this gonna work. We gotta have a conversation. We're gonna have to talk. And this is why these conversations matter. Another one is your emotional connection, right? So if you want to have a great intimacy within your sexcapade, you have to have a conversation because it's all about connecting. It's all about the physical act, right? And you have to have that conversation because you need to know how the person's going to feel or enjoy connecting sexually with you. So you have to have that intimate conversation because you don't know what's going to happen within the intimacy here, meaning you don't know if that person needs to have pre-intimacy before the actual act of sex. So you have to have that conversation. Or that person may not like you to touch them before and just want to go straight into sex. It is important to have a conversation. We have different likes. And the person in the past has nothing to do with the person in the present. So you have to have a conversation and continue to talk about your connection within intimacy, you see? Because it's about improving the experience within a bedroom or sexual situation. You have to have that conversation. It's all about, we say it all the time, communication, but you have to communicate about sex. And that means having a conversation about sex. Because you got to develop a habit of being able to adjust to the change within that situation in the bedroom. It may change. And so you've got to be able to deal with that, because otherwise you're going to resent that person because they always want to do the same thing. And then they don't want to change. And you have now disappointment. And then you have these issues. And then you possibly have someone wanting to seek it from someone else. So you have to have these communications during, before, during, and after. Okay? The other thing is your boundaries. You must have boundaries. And here, and this is very important. Some things are off limits. Some things a person is not going to do. If you don't have a negotiable and this is something you're not going to do, then don't do it. So it's very important to talk to someone about your likes and dislikes. And i.e. example, threesomes. Everybody doesn't want the threesome. Everybody don't desire fellatio. You see where I'm going? So you have to have a conversation about non-negotiables that in the bedroom that you are not going to fulfill. And you absolutely are not going to try it. So you have to let that partner know, because that partner may have to change what they see right at this point in time within you. You may not be the mate. And down the road, that relationship is going to change, because that person likes fellatio and you do not. And so over time, it's just not going to work, because you want to look for somebody to give you a piece of that. And it makes, for you, it may be something that makes you feel good. And you want that to be fulfilled. So you have to respect people's desires and non-negotiables. So if it's something you're not going to do, you have to have a conversation about it. And you have to establish what is your no. What is that you're not going to honor? What you're not going to change your mind about? So important to have a conversation about this, guys. The other thing is you have to talk about love and relationship and sexual conversation, especially if you've had previous trauma. Sometime within our relationships, we have had past wounds and we don't acknowledge them. We move on to the next relationship and we think it'll be fixed. And sometimes those who get into a relationship don't have conversation and think everybody's the same and everybody's normal. We change. And we change on the basis of maybe possible some trauma that happened, or maybe a sexual situation may have happened, and we need the healing. So you have to be cautious about that sexual side if that person has experienced an issue. And this is why you have to have a conversation to have emotional and physical safe uh, conversation or desires about this us and the relationship we in. Because what you may want is may not what I can deal with because I had an issue in the past. So you've got to have these conversations, guys. And then I'm gonna do one more. And sexual growth. You have to have sexual growth. We change as we mature. We desire more as we mature. We learn how to fulfill each other's needs as we mature. So it's so very important that over time we have to be open about the changes that happen within our life. The hormonal change that women have, the hormonal change that men have. We are going to improve within our lives. We're going to improve within our sexual lives. And so you have to have a conversation about how we continue to make it better, how we make it more enjoyable, what can we do to keep it exciting. And that's what I call, when you hear me say, I teach you about enhancing. I give you solutions to enhancing. You have to keep your sex life exciting so that you could continue to connect long term, because you will change. I promise you, you will change as you grow. You will want more or you will want less. You want to be touched more, you want to be touched less. You want to be together more, you may want less. You're going to change. And so that conversation about us being in a relationship and connecting matters, because we're cultivating relationships that we want to evolve so that we can have greater fulfillment. You see? So you have to take the time to talk about what you want within your emotional and intimacy and sexual life. You have to have a conversation before and after intimacy. You know, you have to. Then you have to watch being judgmental, because you can't judge me based on what happened yesterday. You have to judge people based on how they treat you now. So you have to be open-minded, and you have to let go of what they did in the past. You have to look at how they treat you now. So it's important for us to have these conversations, because these things will help you have a successful relationship. You got to learn to use statements. I use I statements instead of you accusations. Always accusing someone or always attacking somebody. Talk about what I do to help our relationship be stronger, or to help our intimacy be stronger. Let's figure out what it is that I can do to help us, and do better within the bedroom, or just with our emotional and intimacy conversation. Okay? You have to continue to revisit, and you have to keep doing it, not just once, but all the time when things change. Okay? So I hope this conversation helped you, because I wanted to go more into detail, because my live, sometimes we laugh and talk and things not flow sometimes. So I wanted to recap this week about the things I talked about, and we did a Q&A. So make sure you continue to join and follow me, and share and watch, and join me on my lives on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And we talk about things that's going to help you enhance your relationship, change your relationship, find the love you seek. Okay? So I thank you for joining me. I'll be back on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays live. And as well, you'll get a weekly talk with the Love Doctor.